I think there's three kind of levels that you have to see this as. Obviously, very interlinked, so you can't see them separately, but you have to try all three approaches in order to like really have an impact. And they should be weighted more in different ways. So it's not like a free equal split. What you should have is the majority of an effort against knife crime should be on preventative measures. You should be looking at getting people early, because what tends to happen is in primary school, sure, there is disparity in terms of sets and differences, etc. But that move from secondary to primary school seems to be where people start going down that wrong path. And that's mainly because in education-wise, it's really easier to fall behind the gaps. And this can happen really easily due to poverty and all these other distinguishing factors, which means you're not having the right learning environment, you're not getting as much support. If you go to school with a private tutor and you can really see the disparity, you're going to do much, much better than those who haven't. And this is also linking with the fact that people with learning disabilities also are in a higher position to go into crime, and that's because they also do feel like there's lack of hope in that education system. So that early interventive measures need to be looking at how can we support that transition a bit more? How can we also make sure that everyone feels like more supported? The education system, how is that more holistically driven? And also home life, because the education system might be flawless, like very like concrete, but when they return home, what life are they going back to? So how can we support that? That is probably one of the most important things for the long-term future. It won't necessarily fix knife crime immediately, but if we really want to see that big change, that's where most of the measures need to go into. Now you have the intervention methods, which is the second one I talked about. That is when you find young people who are going down that path, who are committing knife crime. How do you deal with it? And then there is the whole point how exclusions, you need to look at reducing them and instead having more rehabilitative measures. So you're looking at basically trying to stop exclusions as one example into PRU units, and instead have a more integrated system where you're trying to get them back into education. If they do go into something like, if they do get a criminal record and it's not that severe, that you are able to integrate them back into education and jobs, and you can put them on a track and give them hope. That doesn't happen at the moment. At the moment, you're in a system where once you have gone down that path, sure, you have a couple doors open for you, and you even have charities which will be like, look, we'll give you a helping hand onto the job ladder. But that kind of same trajectory that you could jump back on the path of life, you can't never jump back on that path of life, because we've created a system where you close those doors to people. You need to start opening them up a bit more. And then the third point is kind of punitive measures. After someone has committed a crime, what do you do about it? When someone has been stabbed, and how do you deal with it? I think there's a whole thing about how you need to support those around. You need to support those people in the environment. The reason why somewhere like Edmonton has such a high crime rate is because it becomes sort of infectious at the end of the day. If you are seeing people getting stabbed around you, that becomes the norm. That comes internalized anger. And psychologists will say the same when they see young people with knife crime. They have been in an area where it kind of has been normalized. And some people may say drill music is down to this, but in reality, drill music is just exactly what they're seeing in real life. So if anyone thinks you could just take away that kind of music, well, you're not taking away the visions they see every single day when they walk home from school. So you really need to support the network and the community around dealing with every single incident that happens, rather than just having a police report. And then when it comes to sentencing and things like that, short sentences don't necessarily work. If you're going to put someone in prison for about 6 to 12 months, it's not necessarily, for that young person, it's not anything that's going to be a deterrent. And it's actually something which can be seen as literally a badge of honor at the end of the day. And it's such a short sentence. And that doesn't mean advocating for long sentences. That means advocating for more like unique and rehabilitative measures, such as restorative justice. But then when it does come to the extreme, instead of offering them short-term sentences, you're offering them longer-term sentences with a more progression system at the end of it, where they're hoping to get back into society. At the end of it, it's very much consequentialism, where you look at what can lead to that person and society as a whole being better, rather than what our current system is right, what do they deserve? What do we feel in our hearts they deserve? Which isn't really helpful for anybody.